Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to News Now, and this is the iMac 2010. Believe it or not, it's actually 7 years old, or I think it's around 7 years old. It's definitely turning 7 this year, and I've had this computer since like 2011 or so, and from pretty much the time at which I bought it to now, it's held up really well. And I'm here to talk a little bit exactly about how the performance is, which software you should be running, whether this is a good buy. I mean, if you really want to save money, this is definitely going to be a little bit cheaper than some of the higher end, more current iMacs, and you can get this on eBay or Amazon for much less money. And I'm also going to be talking about what is the difference between that computer and your typical 27-inch iMac that you would see today. So first is performance. So I am running OS X Yosemite on this computer, and in a second I'll zoom in a little bit on the screen so you can see what exactly I'm doing. But I'm running OS X Yosemite. I didn't have the courage to upgrade it any more than that. So right off the bat, as I'm logging in right here, I'll just show you the design. Basically, you can tell right off the bat that this is a lot thicker than your current models or even any more recent models. There you go. You can see how thick it actually is. Now back then, this is a technological marvel. The computer could be this thin, this thin. And for context, I'm actually going to use my thumb. As you can see, that it takes up a good half of my thumb or so. And yeah, you can see it takes up a good half of my thumb or so, and that's actually pretty thick. Going off into the back, you can see that it looks pretty much similar to current iMacs. You have your I/O ports here, you have a headphone jack. You do not know what that port is. It looks like some other kind of headphone jack. Let me zoom in on that over here. You also have an Ethernet port. I think that's, I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's VIDI, I think. I cannot remember what exactly it's called. Something to do with video. Do not know what that is either. And then you have 4 USB 3 ports right there. And then of course you have your single power supply cable running off into the back. And I think that's one of the best things about having a Mac. You guys can look at the display right here. You can actually see that this display. So this thing ships with 8 gigabytes of RAM and I believe a 500 gigabyte hard drive. There was no SSD storage back then for something like this. So there you can see it's running OS X Yosemite version 10.10.5. It's a 21.5 inch display from mid 2010. Processor is a 3.0 gigahertz Intel Core i3. Jesus, a Core i3. Can we just stop and think about that for a second? A Core i3 processor. We're getting onto Core i9 right now, and you know it's been 7 years. Just think about it. Core i3. Now 3.0 gigahertz is not terrible for a desktop, and that's definitely why it's still usable today. But there are definitely some way faster computers now, especially when you consider this thing shipped with an Intel Core i3. God, I still can't get over that. Memory, like I said before, is 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM at 1333 megahertz. The graphics are ATI Radeon HD 4670 256 megabytes, and yeah, especially back then, the graphics were never really great on Macs. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now the display, if you look at the display, it's a 1080p display, which if you think about it is not terrible. I've worked with a lot of computers with seriously much worse display resolutions, so this is not really bad at all. The viewing angles are actually quite nice. The colors are pretty vibrant. Nothing like a P3 color gamut or anything like that, but you're going to get some pretty nice colors and pretty nice saturation and pretty nice resolution out of this guy. And then yes, I was right. It does ship with a 500 gigabyte hard drive. There was no SSD storage back then, or there was, but it wasn't. The capacity wasn't nearly the amount that you can get today with like 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes of SSD storage. So those are the specs of this guy, but how does this thing actually perform in day-to-day usage? Well, I'm gonna admit, I do not use this every single day, as we have multiple computers in this house. So I try to stick to my MacBook Pro, or my iMac 27-inch with 5K display from late 2015. But sometimes I do have to use this if some of the other members of my family are using the other computers. And I must say, it's not really a pleasure to work on. Disregarding the fact that it's really, really old, just using this guy, there are several things that make it not the optimal machine to be working on. One, it's really slow. Even on the OS X Yosemite, when I refused to push it any more than that, it was really, really slow. I think after around Mavericks, or what was before that, Mountain Lion, it just sort of slowed down. I think it shipped with, God, I don't even know, Mountain Lion 2012. Probably when I got it, it had Lion, and after like Mavericks or so, it started to slow down a little bit. I probably should have kept it on Mavericks. Point is, it's really not very fast, especially with only 8 gigs of RAM, and I'm clearly running out of storage here. I have 5 gigabytes of the hard drive space left. Opening applications takes, I'd say, 5 to 10 seconds longer than it does when working on other computers. Just for a desktop, 8 gigabytes in 2017 is just not going to cut it. Another thing I really don't like about this computer when working on it is that it overheats really quickly. Now, this actually wasn't a problem until about 5 years ago or so, where this thing just started to heat up in the back so much. It's actually heating up right now, and it just hasn't been doing anything. It's just on, and it really heats up a lot, especially in the back. It's actually almost to the point where it's scorching hot. So that's a really big no-no, and that actually leads to a lot of disadvantages. And when you're gaming or doing something intensive, it can even sometimes shut down on you, which is really not acceptable at all. Now, granted, I would not try gaming on any computer that's over 5 years old. I have gamed on this before. It's not the best thing to game on, I have to say that. I think the problem with this is, one, the graphics, two, the fact that it doesn't have as many resources to run OS X Yosemite, and also the games are still being updated on this guy, so it really doesn't have the resources to support both OS X Yosemite's requirements, system requirements, and also the requirements that this new updated game is demanding. So I think really that's why it's not a great gaming machine. But honestly, I don't know why you're gaming on a Mac. You shouldn't be doing that much gaming on a Mac, in my opinion. Okay, now the last thing I want to talk about is a few more hardware differences that I noticed with this guy. So first of all, you notice that the bezels are huge. This is from Steve Jobs' era, so you can see that these bezels are really, really big, even bigger than the current model. And then also on the, hold on one second. On the left side or right side of the computer here, you actually have a DVD slot right here. What the heck? Is this an SD? I think this is an SD card slot. Yeah, this had a lot of legacy I/O. So yeah, it's an SD card slot right there, I think. And this is a DVD slot, so you can actually watch DVDs on this guy. And I have a lot of old DVDs, so it makes a lot of sense to watch this DVD. I watch a lot of DVDs on this guy, and it's perfect for watching movies or TV shows or wherever you want. It just can't handle much more than web browsing, and just general work that you might be doing, like typing in a word processor or something. This is the first Mac I've ever used in my lifetime, and it definitely left a good first impression. I just think this thing, should you buy it? No, not ever. If you do not think you have enough money for some of the more current iMacs, which I believe start at over $1,000, it's pretty expensive, then I'd say if you still want a desktop, I would just say either get a monitor for a couple $100, or just get, I really hate saying this because I'm an Apple dude, but if you really don't have that much money, you gotta get Windows. I mean, Windows just offers a lot of cheaper options that are just not there on the Mac side of things. So yeah, if you were thinking that you could just get away with still getting a Mac at a cheaper price, trust me, this thing definitely offers a lot of downsides, and I really don't recommend this to anybody who's looking to buy a cheaper iMac. it's bad. It's bad. I mean, in terms of the fact that this thing is 7 years old, it did hold up pretty well. I'm not gonna say it is usable. It's just not optimal for any work. I still will have this computer for a while. I don't have any plans to get rid of it. But right now, I again cannot recommend it to anybody. So either if you're looking for a cheaper desktop option and you don't want to pay for an over $1,000 newer iMac desktop, because the baseline model is still over $1,000, I believe, then just get a Windows. If you still want a desktop option, get a monitor or get Windows. Those are my recommendations. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, I will see you in the next video.